you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime Fuego here.
And we are finally back to continue our horror franchise tier list ranking.
At long last.
So guys, the franchises have gotten smaller and smaller on the line because quite frankly to fit everything, I think I needed to make it that much smaller. I have a feeling we may have a number of Bs going forward, so we'll see what happens.
Lots of mid-range is going to be, filled in this particular one. So,
But we have 20 new franchises to talk about. So a lot of you guys wanted us to do, where's the tier list ranking part 3? Where's tier list ranking part 3? And think about it. It's 20 different franchises that we have to watch every single installment of.
Which I admit, I haven't seen the Hell House LLC, so I'm going
It's
to
the only
rely
one,
on
though.
you.
It's the
Yeah,
only
it's
one,
the only
right?
one.
Everything else we've all seen, and I've seen all of it. So we're gonna definitely go through this, and then I'm gonna go in and redo all of these icons so we can reconfigure the tier list and hopefully make it a little bit bigger, maybe.
Now,
I don't know if I just do 2 lines of it or something going forward.
And there's still probably enough for a 4th installment of this at some point down the road, right?
There's 180 franchises. That's enough for 9 installments of this. And by the time we get to the 9th, granted, there will probably be 200, so there'll probably be enough for a 10th as well. So yeah, no, we're going to be able to do these for a long time. We're just going to need to focus on a lot of franchises that we may not want to focus on at some point.
Yeah, I have some reservations about that, but it's okay.
We'll get through it.
Yeah.
So let's start off, Fuego, shall we, with the next in the franchise list, which is the Cloverfield franchise.
There you go.
There we go.
Get there, Cloverfield.
So, that includes the original Cloverfield, that includes 10 Cloverfield Lane, and that includes the Cloverfield Paradox.
Originally, I think it was called God Particle, and it was going to be a theatrical thing. It was a retrofitted thing similar to 10 Cloverfield, if I remember, where they kind of just made it into a Cloverfield film. And they are working on a 4th in the franchise proper, finally, like an actual sequel to the first film. First film, I was a little harsher on PG-13 horror back in the day. I didn't love it when it first came out, whereas I loved 10 Cloverfield Lane because I actually like bunker movies, and I'm okay with that. John Goodman's performance was so great in that, and I'm a big Mary Elizabeth Winstead fan. So the second is probably my favorite in the franchise. God Particle was pretty forgettable, but this is a tough one since there isn't as much to
before you give yours again, let's both give our thoughts before we give our ranking.
Go. Sorry.
So the first Cloverfield to me is almost an S tier found footage movie. It's not an S tier movie necessarily.
No.
I would say it's an A.
Okay.
But it is an S tier found footage movie.
Yeah.
So, but as an overall movie, I would say it's an A movie. I would say 10 Cloverfield Lane. I kind of also think that's an A for different reasons. It is one of the better bunker movies with an excellent creature payoff at the end.
Yes, which was what they filmed after the fact to make it into a Cloverfield movie.
And then Cloverfield Paradox was...
I barely remember that movie, man.
It was pretty lame, and it only had the tie-in at the end when... So basically it was a group of people out there in space deciding whether or not to come home because communication has ceased with the surface. Yeah. And at the end they do go home, but they're being warned, don't come back. And when the ship enters the atmosphere, you see the Cloverfield monster stand up, and it's above the clouds. So it's a different Cloverfield monster that's even bigger. And that's the only tie-in, really.
Yeah. And the thing about that film, man, was that I felt like concept on paper, it had so much potential, but the execution was just rather weak, and I didn't think the acting was that good.
So here's my problem. I have 2 A's and probably a C.
Yeah, I would say
Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah, like C minus, maybe even for me, but still.
But is that enough to drag it into a B, or do you consider 2 A's and a C still an A minus?
Well, the issue with me is that, I really don't like found footage, and I think that's why when
the first one is an A?
When I saw the initial Cloverfield, it was more like a B plus because I liked the acting. I thought it was solid, including the death of one actress who I really enjoy in the midsection of the film ish. But if you hold it in that high regard,
No,
I don't think it's an A, dude. I am okay with it being a B. Okay?
I'm okay with it being a B too.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. I think a lot of these are going to end up there, which is why I shrank them so much, which is why, because I think I needed a lot of space in the B category here.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, unfortunately.
All right, let's do it though. I'm with you. Overall, we'll call this a B.
Yeah.
So give me a second. I'm gonna have to resize them all, but that's okay. It's gonna
And I think
work out
more so
just
than
fine.
anything, that's because of how weak I thought the third installment was.
Agreed.
And
it really dragged it down.
Well, and also the fact that, you know, with that retrofitting, it doesn't really feel like there is like a consistent plan with this franchise a lot of the time, and for that reason, I definitely couldn't give it an A. I feel like they were trying to sell other movies based on a reputable name, because so many people did really enjoy that first Cloverfield more than me.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. So that is Cloverfield. Next up, Fuego, is a series that we had to complete for this past Shark Week, right?
Yeah.
Or was it a previous year's Shark Week?
I believe it was.
It was
last
2020
week.
Shark Week. Yeah.
Last year's
So
Shark Week.
they released a new Deep Blue Sea movie.
Which wasn't bad.
Last year.
It was
3 actually
pretty
wasn't
fun,
bad.
man.
Yeah,
I liked 3 quite a bit. More than I thought, but my expectations were so low after 2 that
2 sucked.
Yeah.
2 is, I think, a D.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think 3 is probably a B. And I think 1 is either. I think 1 has to go. It's got to be A. It can't be S. You think it's got to be S? Really?
Nah. I could see why for a lot of people, because it is cheesy. That it could be more like an A than an S, but I just love the first one so friggin' much, and it's got such a great cast. They didn't go with names, like bigger named actors after the first one, and the only one to go theatrical, obviously. But I mean, Samuel L. Jackson and that iconic thing that goes down with him, if we're not trying to be super spoilery.
Oh no, he gets eaten.
Yeah, yes, he gets chomped, and
chomp.
Exactly, chomp, chomp. And yet, in the end of this, with what happens with that female researcher, I still remember very distinctively being in the theater. And I was like, if that shark does not eat this bitch, like, this movie is so stupid. And I got the wish fulfillment, even though I kind of liked her character and she had some cool moments. I argue the first one is an S. And it may not be B for everybody. And the third one, B, I would say. The third one, like B or a C, you know. I mean, I would say the second one's probably even an F.
So where do you put the series? Do you put the series at a B or a C? Because that first one is so good.
Yeah.
But do the other 2 really bring it up to a B?
I don't think so, to be fair.
I don't think so either. I think it's ultimately a C.
I would say C+, you know, but that unfortunately
puts it in the C.
Still relegates it to that, you know, like that 70 percentile range, you know. So yes.
The first movie is not good enough to make up for the next 2, guys. Let's be real here.
Although, give 3 a chance.
Give 3 a chance. 3 is still good. It's just
3 has a couple moments where it's those same sort of kills, like I mentioned with the researcher woman, where it's like a very fulfilling sort of like, okay, that is there is the one jumping out of the water death in particular. That's really, really good. Anyway, but yeah, this is not a B or an A sort of franchise, unfortunately.
No. Okay, so next up, we're just going to go in alphabetically, guys, in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah, this is more a franchise you have an affinity for than me.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the third one very well. 1 and 2, iconic and a lot of fun. I think the third one was.
I actually think 3 is better than 2.
Okay, and that's the one that he didn't direct, right? If I remember correctly, yeah, he handed off the duties to like a writer or producer, you know, somebody else who had been involved with.
But he wrote it though.
He still so he still wrote it.
And then Victor Crowley came along.
Yeah,
the fourth one,
which is fun. You know,
it was okay.
It wasn't
obviously,
but
it felt like it had the smallest budget of them all. To be honest with you, but
and yet that was our time when we met him at the when we went out to the one-off little fandom event kind of thing.
Exactly.
I think that they were doing.
Exactly. So. Sorry, I just noticed something I've got to fix. That's gonna drive me nuts. There's this one is just a little bit lower than the rest of them, so I'm gonna fix that. But yeah, so Hatchet. So the first one, I personally think the first Hatchet is like S tier level, schlocky slasher stuff. 2 is closer to a C. 3 is B. 4 is probably D. So ultimately, I think Hatchet probably resides in the B tier. But you're gonna contend C, aren't you?
I would probably contend C, unfortunately, but that's because of the fact that I'm not as invested in this franchise as you.
I don't think you're alone is the thing, and I being that 2 is a C, 4 is a D, 3 is a B, 1 is an A. It's probably total a C+ series like Deep Blue Sea.
It's a fun throwback, sort of, and it doesn't take itself.
It's hard to say, but
it doesn't take itself supremely seriously, and it still has some of the crazier kills that I've seen, like. The one with the woman that everybody talks about.
Pulling her face apart.
Yeah, absolutely insane. But, I mean, for me, it's Frozen from Adam Green. That's my favorite of his films.
Frozen is great.
As far as being effective. It's fun, but no, I can't. I can't go B, especially with.
I would go B. So I would go B, but I'm deferring to Fuego on this one.
Look at the caliber of other stuff we have up at B, though, which is
yeah,
Child's Play and Hellraiser,
right.
and that's where you.
You're right.
That's where you have to.
Do we need to
make
revisit some of those, or are we still comfortable with some of those?
That's a tough
because
comparison.
Child's Play ultimately, considering all of them, is a B.
I think you would probably
Hellraiser, considering all of them, is a B.
Is
Leatherface,
yes.
considering all of them, is a B. No,
and
I think we're right on those. I think we're right on
those.
those.
Yeah, and I think it's easier to make a determination when there's a larger body of work in these particular situations. And since there's only 4 Hatchet movies compared to, like, goodness, how many different, Chucky and Hellraiser films offhand the numbers
like
eluding
8,
me and stuff like that.
10,
yeah, this is C for me, dude. But personal opinion, art is subjective, as I constantly contend, obviously.
All right, so let's move on to Hell House LLC, and this is the only one that you said you cannot.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of these. There's 3.
There's 3 of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that's our stipulation.
Our stipulation is there has to be
consideration.
3 entries into the franchise in order to qualify for the franchise tier list ranking.
So at least a trilogy.
Now, this is one that I had never seen up until, I think, in 2019 or 2020. I finally sat down and just watched them all. I think they're all available on Prime or something like that.
And it's a found footage?
It is a found footage series. It is, and it's a series that basically is all about this one haunted house where bad stuff happened and then it closed down and then reopened, and bad stuff happened and then it closed down and reopened and bad stuff happened again. And so
sounds par for the course, but
it is. And here's the thing: I think the first one was a really good found footage movie, but it, like so many other things, has degrading quality as it goes along.
Really?
Well, actually, no. I think it's one of those where
because there's
two was not good.
Sometimes gets better.
I did not like 2.
Franchises.
But 3 got better again. So 1 was played as like a straight found footage horror movie that did well. 2, they tried to do things a little bit differently, and again, it's been like
sometimes
2 years since I watched them. They tried to do things a little bit differently. It was still found footage, but they tried to present it a little bit differently. Because it was like, God, I'm trying to remember my exact thoughts on it. I'll need to revisit it for a full review and everything, but
did the
I
budget
remember
shrink with
the budget
later
definitely shrank.
installments? Yeah. Okay.
But then 3, they tried to go back and do things better again. And again, I can't remember the specifics of why I felt this way, but I did think 3 was better than 2, but 1 was easily the best. I did like the continuity of it picking up and continuing the story where the previous ones left off.
Same characters, kind of ish.
Yes, and same actors did return through all 3, which was nice.
Yeah, which does maintain
and
that
surprising.
Sort of
and in the end, well, yes, especially in the found footage genre. Right, the found footage subgenre, having actors reprise their roles doesn't make sense a lot of the time because most actors die in whatever episode they're in.
Yeah.
But they had a reason for them to come back, and so I enjoyed. That's the cool thing, right? So the first one, people die in it because there's ghosts in the haunted house, and then in later ones, those people that died return as ghosts in the later installments, and I'm like, that's smart. Found footaging.
Yeah, because even though I haven't watched a lot of the Paranormal Activities, aren't they like different sets of characters kind of for each one?
Well, some of them return, and that's when it's special when they do. But ultimately, so I would say, again, this one's all on me. So I would say the first Hell House LLC is an A. It's an A to a B found footage movie. C, the second one is a D. The third one is a C.
Okay.
So if the first one is A to B, second one is D, third one is C, I would say ultimately that averages to a C+.
So we have another C.
We have another C.
We have three
We have
straight
another C.
Cs.
I do acknowledge that the first movie is good, but ultimately the whole series is a C.
It is one that it is, at least the first film, one that I have seen a lot of people who are just big fans of found footage, which I admittedly am not, as I've said quite a few times.
And I am, so I'm
and you
lenient.
are, so yeah, exactly. So,
But it just didn't cut the mustard for me.
oh, I love mustard. Anyway,
I don't like mustard, so.
yeah.
All right. Now we're back in the territory for the rest of it.
Hence
Fuego
the
and I have
cutting
seen
of
everything,
the
right?
Mustard, yes.
So, Hellboy. There are indeed 3 entries into this. There's the original Guillermo del Toro Hellboy. There's the Hellboy, The Curse of the Golden Army, right? Is that what it's called?
I think it's just called Golden Army. The
Golden Army, okay,
yeah,
that's part 2. Also Guillermo.
Which I prefer to the original film.
I agree.
Personally.
I think 2 is better than the first one, but the first one is still quality.
It is.
You got quality Ron Perlman. You
Yeah.
got
His
Selma
performance,
Blair.
I love Selma Blair.
You
man.
got early
since
Doug
Cruel
Jones,
Intentions.
even though he was dubbed over. Doug Jones was first dubbed over by Niles.
Although he got to voice him.
He got to
in
voice
the
himself
second
in the second one.
Yeah.
And then we had the reboot, the recent Hellboy reboot with David Harbour.
Where they went for the R rating,
Yep.
but it didn't necessarily yield a better.
It was a silly
No.
movie, and especially the Ian McShane, like, flesh face towards the end that was so
Yeah.
stupid. But
And also,
it did have one of the coolest...
Mila Jovovich in it too.
Oh, that's right, as the baddie. But it did have one of the coolest hell on earth scenes as giant demons rose from hell. I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Yeah.
As giant demons rose from hell.
It
and
is one of the
then
best sequences in
literally
the entire
tore up
franchise.
humanity. Yeah. So here's the thing. I think 2 is S tier
I'm there
horror
with
superhero stuff.
I am there with you, and actually, I think the first one is. It's
First
really,
one's A.
It's A. I mean,
Borderline
maybe B
S.
plus. You know.
Well, no,
I mean,
okay. That's all agreeable.
Yeah, because I think the
A
second one
is
improved significantly as far as
Agreed.
scale and budget, and I like the villains more in the second one. It just felt like they were building to something, which was a real bummer that Guillermo has not been able to complete his trilogy, and presumably isn't going to.
Now, is the new
know.
one, would you put the new one at a B minus or a C?
I didn't hate the new one as much as a lot of people.
I didn't hate it as much as everyone else
I was
either.
entertained, honestly.
There was some
Yeah.
silliness. I would put it at a B, so ultimately I think that puts
this-
Hellboy at an A. Doesn't it? You have an S for number 2, you have an A minus to B plus for number 1,
I'm just
and then
looking,
you have a B for the reboot.
I'm just looking at the other stuff that we considered an A,
I
though,
know.
and that's what's making me reassess just a little
Well,
bit.
that's fair.
When
That's
you're looking
fair.
at
I would put it at B.
Terminator and
I would
Jurassic
put it at B.
Park and Jaws.
When you average
and
it out,
stuff like that. I mean, I would
I
say
wouldn't put
B
it up there
plus
with them.
for sure. I would say B plus for
okay,
sure.
I'm down. I agree
yeah.
with you. Okay, you've convinced me.
Yeah, I don't think I own those first 2 Hellboy movies, and
I do.
wish I did, because I think there is a.
I actually got the
isn't there an
big Hellboy, the
extended-
3-disc set. Grab them.
Yeah, the first
Grab them. They're right over there.
Jump up.
Right before the Hellraiser movies. They're behind the
There is some
seats.
order here.
Yeah, grab. I think I have. It's a 3-disc set. It's right after The Grudge, and then the others are burned. Right after The Grudge, big 3-disc set. That's
Oh,
Hellboy.
Jesus, that's because it's such a gargantuan thing. Yeah.
Did you not know that was a thing?
This is yeah. I've seen it at like Zia Records. There is
So
a
this is the director's cut. Oh, the director's cut
Director's
of
cut.
Hellboy,
Yeah.
which is a 3-disc big set.
Yeah.
And then I love 2, and I thought the reboot was fun too. But yeah, I haven't actually looked at these in a long time.
Yeah.
That might be a fun DVD set to look at.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is back when like, I miss extensive amounts of supplemental features
too,
because
man.
this is loaded. Absolutely stacked.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna put it at the B, though. I agree with that ultimately.
Now, so have you read like a lot of the Hellboy comics?
I have most of them.
Mignola's stuff. That's his name, right? Mike
Mignola. Yep.
Yeah.
I have most
Tends to
of the
have.
Hellboy comics, but I have them in trade form. But he's still going, so I think I've got like 5 or 6 trades to pick up.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mignola did a awesome Aliens one-shot comic that almost had this like samurai sort of vibe. I think it was called Salvation, possibly. It was either Sacrifice or Salvation. Those both came out around the same time, and it was rad status. Obviously, he wrote, illustrated it, and yeah, really, really good shizzle.
So next up is Insidious. Insidious now has 4 installments. Okay. including the Lost Key or whatever the hell that last one was
which is
called.
the fourth one. Yeah. Which
actually-
the fourth one I don't recall very well.
No, I watched it once. So
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the first two numerous times.
First two are great. Man.
Love them. Love
Yeah.
them. And they were directed by James Wan.
Indeed.
Right.
PG-13 compared
PG-13,
to the
but-
Conjuring and its R-ratedness.
Well, Insidious was before The Conjuring.
it was.
So I love, like, James Wan was already redefining the haunted house genre for me.
And also pushing the envelope and watching it bend on PG-13 for horror, you know.
So I loved the first Insidious, and then Insidious 2 came in and was...
I thought it was even a little bit...
It was great because it continued the story. You still had...
the red demon guy.
No, the
whatever.
red-faced demon wasn't in 2.
Oh, okay.
So the red-faced
It was
demon was
only in one.
only in 1, but the old lady... It was the cross-dressing man that was the old lady.
Yeah.
That was in 1. That was the one that was focused on in 3. Okay? They do touch... They allude to the red-faced demon at the end of 3. But yeah, it's the old
So
lady
three
demon in
was
2.
3 was a prequel, though, if I remember.
3 was
right?
a prequel, right?
Yeah.
But I believe you're right. But yes,
I
so
hope
the
I'm
second
right.
one was a continuation of 2. It had Patrick Wilson coming back.
Yeah.
And then it also
Which is so
had,
funny that he was in both of James Wan's prominent.
well, it had Lin
franchises.
Shaye
Lin
returning
Shaye.
as her ghost character, but she died in the first movie. So she
I thought she died at the end of the second
no,
movie.
she died in the first one, and she was a ghost in the second one.
That's right.
So she was a ghost that helped them in the second one, and then the third one was the
Being
prequel,
the
which
prequel,
went
so
back
she's
and told, and
back
then
alive.
4 continued the story of 3.
Yeah.
So Lin Shaye was in all of them, but yeah, they continued the story of Patrick Wilson's son and the Nether, and then 3 was the prequel story that had the girl with the broken legs that was like walking with that one scene in the trailer. So 1 and 2 to me are at least A tier.
Yeah.
If not S tier horror.
I will
movies.
confirm that for sure.
I would
for
say
sure.
A tier. And
I
then
don't-
3
yeah, I don't-
I think is I think 3 and
That's
4
where-
would be B.
That's where the franchise most definitely starts to slide, at least in my estimation.
4 might be C.
Um,
4 might be C. I think ultimately I would be comfortable putting this in the B slot. I don't think it's on the level of Jurassic Park and The Conjuring.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Conjuring is, and yet.
It's
and yet
the
there's
first 2 are
Now-
on the level of The Conjuring,
now,
but
so-
when you include 3 and 4,
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah, now, so when we did The Conjuring, we were doing the franchise as a whole, right? Including the tie-in films? if I
No, that
remember
was
correctly?
I think that was
It was just those two?
No, I think it was including The Nun and La Llorona.
Yeah, and also Annabelle.
Well, Annabelle
Right.
has 3 itself. No, we did Annabelle separate.
Oh, damn, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So I think
So
we
that's where I'm like, okay, did we like establish the rules a little bit later with having to have?
we might
at
have
least
we
3
might have
films,
cheated a little
you
bit.
know?
I mean,
Yeah.
you could technically include The Nun, and you can technically include La
La
Llorona
Llorona, yeah.
with the Conjuring movies.
Oh yeah, well they're all part of that universe.
So
to speak.
I mean, we might need to revisit once the third one comes out. Maybe it lowers itself. You're
just-
right. We might have bent our rules a little bit
Yeah.
since there were only 2 technically at the time.
yeah,
But I think we
I
included
love-
those 2 offshoots.
I love the Ghostbustery characters in those first few films, man. I think the guy was from.
Well, Lee
101
Wanell is the
Acres,
director.
Right? Oh, okay.
The guy in glasses. That's Lee Wanell, the guy
Oh,
that
acting?
that's him acting.
That's
He's the
awesome.
director of Upgrade and the director
Oh,
of The
yeah.
Invisible Man. So if you guys didn't know,
Really making
yeah,
a name for himself at this
in the
particular
Insidious
point.
movies, the glasses ghost hunter, that's Lee Wanell.
Yeah.
That's actually the dude that directs those other movies.
All those Aussies work together, man.
Yeah, man.
And he also did a shitload of the Saw movies, like what, 3 or 4 of
Yeah.
them or something
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah.
So if you didn't realize, that's Lee Wanell, and I found that out. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Even though, so even though I didn't love the third and the fourth ones, those first 2 achieved a level of scare from PG-13 that, I mean, maybe the others with Nicole Kidman, what lies beneath. Like there's some films and some and Sixth Sense probably being another one too. So yeah, B is fine for me. B is fine for me. I will concede. Yeah, but it's definitely not A. It's not an A franchise for me.
That's fair.
And it's just more so, like I said, as I take a peer at the heavy hitters that are on the A list. Yeah, this one isn't quite at that level.
So this is a controversial franchise.
Yes, indeed it
Jesus,
is.
look at they're not the right size. Oh, I'm having a hard time. I'm gonna have to go back and fix those later. I'm gonna worry
Just
about
fix
it
them in
later.
post.
Yeah, fix them in post. Now, this is a franchise that is very There's going to be a fourth one coming out this year, supposedly.
Yep,
but it is not having to do with the original director, supposedly.
Yeah, it's called Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and so we're thinking soft reboot sort of situation, but we're not 100%. Still doesn't have an official release date yet, and I would imagine that's because of the stigma that this franchise has based on its creator. So.
Indeed. Let's separate this ranking from the creator itself if we can. Obviously, it's hard to do, but the quality of the movies is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the first movie, I think, is a fantastic horror movie.
I like the second one better, actually.
I like the second one as well. I think the second one is super solid. I think the first one is A. The second one is A to S. And then the third one is
sucks,
D.
Dude. The third one's
D to
really bad.
Honestly, D to F.
But so how much does that pull down, an overall
I think
ranking?
ultimately it probably puts it at a B. Or you think C?
I would say C, because I don't think I appreciate that first film as much as a lot of people. I
really like it.
I like it, but I don't absolutely love it. And I think
I would be fine saying the first one is a B, the second one is an A, and the third one is a D, which averages out to a C. So
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's where I would contend, unfortunately.
Okay. No, I'm with it.
And I would actually even, third one was like D-, dude. Like
third
the third
one is borderline F. Yeah.
Holy crap! It was disappointing.
I don't think it drags the whole thing down below a C, though.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Because that second film, man, some of the stuff with those kids on the school bus, like that was thrilling.
I loved it.
Back to the Cameron approach. Like I always, like to. It's one of my tropes that I use to describe stuff. But like bigger body count and more developed mythology and stuff like that. Like I really enjoy. Like I maybe almost love that second Jeepers Creepers, although it has been a minute since I've seen it. So
yeah. Okay, so next up we have the recently completed on the channel The Lost Boys franchise. So you've seen these more recently than me. I think the first movie is an S tier vampire movie. It's one of the best of all time.
Yeah, it's definitely at times style over substance, but it just embodies that late 80s, like, goth and punk, and I will still never forget when we were at Texas Frightmare and we got to see dude playing Cry Little Sister live. It was one of my favorite memories with you since we have been doing this. It was so dope. Boy, the second film is pretty bad though. I borderline loathe that
second one is D
film.
to F.
Yeah.
Third one is probably C.
Yeah, I'd say more like C+, but as much as so many people hold The Lost Boys in high regard, I don't think I could put this franchise above a B. Would
it be a B or would it be a C? Considering
it could contend for a C with the way some people feel about those two direct-to-video sequels that came
I honestly
so
think
much
it's
later.
Probably closer to a C because those are rough, man. Those are really bad sequels.
I like the third one.
The third one isn't terrible.
I like the third one. It was watchable.
Okay, so you'd put it at a B though?
Maybe not. To be fair. It's just because the dip in quality is so significant.
It is a huge dip.
Yeah, because lots of fans of this franchise.
Series, I would watch all of these series before I would watch all of The Lost Boys.
All of The Lost Boys, yes, you were correct about that. But the first Lost Boys...
We're not talking about the one.
I know. So many people would contend that we had no business making two more Lost Boys films. And I would be okay with that argument. I can understand, although I did like the stuff in the comics that we reviewed, but we're not taking that into consideration here. So even though I would probably say C+, in taking the entire trilogy into account, C is okay. And I know we're going to get some flack for that, because I think some people would probably put this at a B. But
you guys, again, we're considering the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
The Tribe sucks.
Yeah, there's some bad ones.
Awful.
Now we're going to get into another fun discussion, Fuego. Another series that we recently completed on the channel. We reviewed all three movies. The first one, I would say, is... Ooh, okay. So is the first one an A or a B, though?
First one's a B.
Because
of the fact that the short story is amazing, but they deliberately tried to expand on the lore.
I think two's a legit F, though.
Yeah, with small town conspiracy sort of stuff, and it didn't really work for me. Robert Englund is hamming it up so hardcore in this. There's some great gore in that first film, but I don't even think I found as much merit in the third one as you did when we reviewed it.
I liked it better,
the third,
but
it was a very, very small margin.
Is this a C or a D for you?
With taking the second and the third film into consideration, I will unfortunately vote for D, despite my
I
love.
think I'm with you.
Despite my love of Cy King and his original source material, this is one that's on a similar level of all those Children of the Corns, where they were just milking a name. Thankfully, they didn't do it anywhere near as much, with this particular franchise. But that short story is really friggin' good, despite the absurdity of its premise. It's chilling and executed very well, and. Yeah, Tobe Hooper's movie is fun, but probably forgettable, and I could not even give that movie more than a B. So, yeah, that's a wrap.
All right, now we're getting into a discussion here, Fuego.
Yeah.
So, this is the Night of the Living Dead series.
So, not to be confused with the Return of the Living Dead
Correct,
series.
we have that separate.
Which is separate. Okay.
That is later.
Yeah.
So, this is all the Romero Living Dead movies. This is Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, like one other one.
Survival of the Dead.
Survival of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the last ones are really trash.
Yeah, the first three are terrific.
Yeah.
And the second three, whereas I actually kind of like Land. I
I think Land is awful.
But so Diary, despite being a found footage, you don't like
hated
that one,
it.
the one at the college.
Hated Diary, hated Survival. They were both awful movies. Not excited
Dennis
about
Hopper.
this last
I
one.
like Dennis Hopper in Land personally.
I didn't.
I think he's enjoyable, but the timeline is so askew with this franchise, which does make those later ones a little less enjoyable.
How much do the first three pull everything else up, though? That's the question.
Well,
Because the other ones are D
some,
and F to me.
Yeah, and I know some people would probably put the first three films at an S or an A, and I do feel like, as far as influence and the iconic nature and so on and so forth, and then basically shaping a genre, or a subgenre of horror specifically. But with how poor, at least in comparison, the back half of this 6-film set is, I still think, based on how influential the first three were, I mean, we wouldn't have The Walking Dead without this franchise. This is B for me.
I was going to go C.
You would go C? Really?
The first three are S and A. But the other three are god-awful, though. They're so bad to me.
I don't hate them as much as a lot of people. I mean, there's a
I'll
lot
give
more...
you B because of the strength of the first three.
Yes.
That
And that's
originated
what-
the zombie
and that's what I'm contending. I mean,
universe.
I feel like in the back three, especially since Romero was getting older,
I don't think we're going to be as
it
kind
was-
with Return.
It was kind of less about subtext and more heavy-handed with his social and political observations and the message. Like he was kind of beating you over the head with the message, as opposed to being a little bit more subtle like he was with those first three films. But especially after revisiting all three recently, which I did before we reviewed Day of the Dead for a recent patron request, right? I watched the previous two, Dawn and Night, obviously, and they're all pretty terrific films, although I still have to declare my blasphemy that I prefer Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead to George Romero's. Sorry, guys.
All right, so next up, another thing that we did for Shark Week last year, which is the Open Water franchise. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys.
The second one's not even an official entry.
The second one is just another movie they slapped Open Water on, and it had the sharks. There was like one scene with sharks.
Almost like what they did with Cloverfield, to be fair.
And then the third one was the same thing. It was a cage dive movie that they slapped Open Water on. And then the first movie, a lot of people really like. It's a found footage movie. I don't like that movie. I've never liked that movie. I don't think this series deserves to be higher than a D or a C.
I would say D.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say D because of the fact that, I mean, the original film, despite the novelty of the premise and everything, and just the scariness of it, it's really just a couple arguing for like 80 minutes
in
or
the water,
whatever the hell it is in the water. And the fact that they did film real sharks and everything. The second film was atrocious. I in some ways, I can't even believe I'm saying this, I think the third film is the best in the trilogy.
It's the most
actually.
entertaining. I would go back and watch it before I watch the others.
Yeah, because of premise at least, and the fact that it's still found footage obviously, and these guys who want to compete in this extreme whatever sort of thing, but the love triangle didn't work for me. I mean, I don't know. It's not a good film, but I would say, whereas the other two are like CD like that one might be like a B- for me. I think it's the best of the trilogy. So.
Okay. Next up is the Pet Sematary franchise, which, yes, does also have 3 entries in it now. Mm-hmm. So you have the original.
And there's a prequel coming soon.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So we might have to revisit this eventually, but there's the original, there's the sequel starring Eddie Furlong.
Yes, and also Clancy Brown.
Oh, yeah, Clancy Brown.
He chews up the scenery in that movie, man.
And then there's the reboot from just about 2 years ago.
Yeah, with Clark, which I have mixed feelings about. I think with the casting especially, I was really intrigued by what that other turn of the wheel was going to entail. I was kind of disappointed with the remake, man. I personally feel like the sequel, where Mary returned to direct again, who did the original. Yeah, I think that film is kind of underrated. It's not a great film.
I liked the remake, but ultimately I'd be okay putting this at a B or a C.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as D or anything like that, but it's definitely not top like A, S, anything like that.
Is it as good as the ones on B, or is it as good as the one on C?
I just have such a soft spot for the first film that
I don't though.
You know where my heart would go.
I know
a lot of people feel like the stuff with Miko is cheesy, and just kind of silly.
Fair.
And that it hasn't aged very well. No. And
I think it's a C.
Damn it! I guess I would give it a C because of the fact that I had so many issues with the remake and the fact that it felt smaller scale. Especially the stuff.
I liked the remake the most, probably of all of them.
Are you? Oof. Damn.
I did.
Okay. Well,
I did. I liked it. I liked that the daughter was an age where some of the shit that she said was believable. I did like the original Judd way better.
Yes, significantly.
The original Judd is so much better than John
Lithgow. Man, I thought Lithgow. I thought that was like Clark and Lithgow.
Why didn't Lithgow do the New England accent? He could.
It was a deliberate decision, I would imagine, from those starry-eyed directors to not have him just do that kind of thing, that yarn or drawl or whatever they like to.
I don't want to go down that route.
Describe it as. I mean, maybe they outplay it on South Park, and with all the different bets they had, them show up.
All right, so moving on to the next one. Now, this is another with 2 old entries and 2 new entries.
Indeed.
This is the Piranha franchise.
Now, dare I say that the aforementioned Cameron effect does not come into play here. At least for me, even though they're flying as opposed to, just being confined to water.
This isn't one of those that you want like the Cameron cut.
It's not
like Aliens.
It's not Aliens
or
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2,
yeah.
So this had 2 entries, old school, and then 2. You had Piranha 3D and then Piranha 3 Double D. So it's
when
weird.
They leaned into that, it was
there's
so
2 different. Well, I wouldn't say that 2. The Spawning is a step down from 1, because here's the thing: 1.
I don't even think that Joe Dante is that great of a film.
It's not a great film, but it's not a bad one. It's a Jaws ripoff with Piranha, and I don't think that's such a bad thing. It did have one of the earliest pair of boobs I've ever seen on film, so I dug that.
Talked about in our pre-production
and
discussion.
But then the second one, The Spawning, it started off with a scuba diving couple going down to a wreck and having sex underwater. And I was like, yeah, baby, that can happen. Yeah. So I dig on that. And then, but then the piranha fish do fly, and then they do actually perpetuate in pools at least in a pool in a scene. So it does get silly, but it is an early James Cameron movie that Lance Henriksen absolutely was not in.
Indeed.
If you ask Lance Henriksen,
Inside
anyway.
jokes. I love them.
And then you had 3D, which was fun, with Rebecca Romaine's husband getting his dick eaten off by a piranha. And
you've got so many fun cameos like Christopher Lloyd and Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss playing his character from Jaws, supposedly.
Dude, I I really like that Piranha remake. It is.
I did too.
It
But
is
Piranha 3
bloody
Double
and
D is
nasty.
awful, where it's piranhas invade a water park.
I don't hate that one.
Oh, it's terrible,
I don't hate that one.
though.
It's still disgustingly gory. Ving Rhames comes back, and isn't he playing a different character?
Yeah. So, okay, so where do we put it, though? Is it higher than a C?
The franchises, it's definitely not higher than a C.
Is it a C or a D?
Oof. Okay, because of the fact that I like the essence of...
I think
of-
C.
Since I like the boobs, and I, like the gore that they really go for in 3 and 4, I will give this one a C.
Yeah,
personally.
I think it's a C.
Yeah.
It's worth a C.
Yeah, that's right. Jerry O'Connell is like a porn director in that one, and it's like a Girls Gone Wild sort of situation.
Yeah, he plays the
it
Girls
feels
Gone Wild
it,
guy,
it
basically.
feels so dated, but it was of the era. So what else can you say in that regard? I suppose.
All right, so Piranha done.
Not the most prominent franchises that are. That's the thing. When you cover the heavy hitters initially, guys, and then you're just starting to.
You gotta whittle them down.
Yeah, starting to like circle the bowl.
So now is another franchise that we just finished. You guys will probably see the tier list ranking of Prom Night before you see this tier list ranking.
Yeah.
But we did
that's
just
right,
finish
yeah,
all
yeah.
5 movies, and now we have to consider them all, Fuego. So I think 2
is great.
A tier. I don't think it's S, but I think it's
not
A
S.
tier.
It's not S because it still has some silliness and it does feel dated at times. But
1, but then 1 and 3 are probably C. 4 and 5 are probably D. Or 4 and 3 are probably D. 1 and 5 are probably C.
that's where you have these.
This whole series is probably
it's so up and down as far as
this whole
quality.
series is probably a C or a D though. What do you think? I mean, 2 is really good, but is it enough to pull the whole franchise up to a C?
Sadly, probably not. Because
I don't think so either.
Okay, because I don't really like the first film that much.
I didn't either.
I found it cheesy.
I thought it was boring.
Cheesy and boring, and it doesn't have good kills and stuff. I feel like later entries in the series did more creative and interesting things as opposed to just being a copycat, just mashup of Carrie and Halloween, which is the way the first film kind of feels to me. So yeah, guys, sorry to our friends up north, but even though it's probably more like a D plus C minus because of how much I love Hello Mary Lou, because I really really dig that movie. The rest of the entries drag it down.
Yep. All right, so now
And this is another one where
now we're
a
at
lot
the
of
return
entries drag it down.
of the Living Dead.
So
Now
spin-off
again, this
series-
has like 6 entries at this point. You know that, right?
I do, and this actually we may have fibbed a little bit because I don't know if I watched past
I've seen them all.
four
I've
or
seen them all.
5.
They are terrible as they go further and further.
I think 3 is pretty damn good, honestly.
3 is okay.
I like the whole, like
1, 2, and 3 are all fun.
I
Two
love the first one.
2
man.
is just the first one done again.
Yeah, it is more so. It's
weird.
almost like a remake in a lot of ways. You even
It's
have
like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, kind of.
yeah, and you have some characters, some actors, I should specify, playing different characters in the second film, which is very
Tom Matthews being one of them.
Yeah, very peculiar the way that they went about it. I love the first film, and what's her name, Linnea Quigley. I wanted to dancing around in that graveyard. Total naked punk rock chick,
Yep.
like holy schmokies, and I like the fact that this series deliberately went the opposite route of Ramiro's excessive seriousness. It was fun, and it was also like a little bit meta, and like the more ambulances or more paramedics or whatever the hell he says at that particular time where the zombies start actually talking. And they want reinforcements. And this was actually the series that really established the brain-consuming aspect that has become, this trope within The Living Dead.
The whole series, though?
The series as a whole is what is, for
D.
me, I don't know if I would go D because of the fact that
They're so bad when you get, like, Rave to the Grave. That's the title of one of them.
Yeah.
And then I think
I don't remember
Days
any of
of
those,
the Dead is one, too.
I don't
or
remember
something
any of
like
those
that.
later entries, man.
They
but
were
the fact
so
that-
bad. It was
but the
just,
fact
all it
that
was just someone finding a barrel in a zombie and it affecting, whatever that movie was about.
The third one was very different, though, and I think that was that the one that Stuart Gordon did?
That was the one with,
that
it was the
where
chick
the girl
that was
had
all,
the, like, needle hands and stuff, and she was trying to, like, fight the desire to consume flesh and stuff like that.
The girl that played Sindel in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh, no shit.
If I'm not mistaken.
I did not know that. Look, if you're that adamant about it being a D,
I mean, I'm not that adamant. I wouldn't put it on the level with everything on the sea. I would put it on the level with Prom Night and stuff, because there's only a couple that are really that enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I don't like the second one very much, and some people sing its praises and whatnot. It was too much retread for me. 3 I enjoyed so much because of the fact that it deliberately tried to do something so different.
1 used the same footage numerous times of the zombie, the skeletons coming out of the earth and stuff like that.
I just like the gutter punk soundtrack, and I like the vibe of that movie so much, but I can see...
But the rest of them...
I can see it. It can be a D.
It's terrible.
Fine.
Necropolis is, I think, what one of them is called. I think that's the 6th one. It's Return of the Living Dead and Necropolis.
Well, even with the Night of the Living Dead franchise and the fact that, they remade it, like the Savini remake is terrific and I love it, but they also tried remaking it, I want to say 1 or 2 more times, and they did like a weird 3D version, and I don't know, it's a very troubled franchise, and the fact that Romero and Russo had this nasty falling out, and still 2 of my favorite interviews that I've done was the fact that I got to talk to both of them separately here on the channel. So,
all right, we are down to the last 5, Fuego. So next up is the Riddick series, which there are 3 movies.
3.
Yeah.
Well,
technically
there's also
4.
the animated one.
Yeah, the Dark Fury. So there was...
Which I didn't see the animated one.
There was Pitch Black, there was the
I
Chronicles of Riddick, there was the Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury, and there was Riddick. I have seen them all. And
it's been a while for me.
It's been a long time for me too. I haven't seen them since they originally came out. Now,
the only one that I have revisited is Pitch Black.
Yeah,
because
me too.
I really
I meant to revisit Riddick because they basically redid Pitch Black, if I'm not mistaken, if I don't recall correctly.
It was at least where they veered back
more
into
creatures.
They veered back into an R rating, whereas in that Chronicles of Riddick it went PG-13, and Vin Diesel was becoming a star from the like the Fast films and all that different stuff, and so because he was a relative unknown when Pitch Black came out, and he was a supporting character for most of it, and nobody really thought he was going to be the one who spoilers.
Pitch Black is where I got introduced to him. I think that's where a lot of us did.
Same, yeah. I still remember watching it at Crypttown in the theater, man. At that the upstairs theater, the United Artists. They used to have up there.
That's where I saw Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, same. Actually.
Okay, so where does that leave this, though? I would think when you include everything, I think we're in B territory for Riddick.
I would contend more C.
You think C?
I would contend more C because
I wouldn't fight you hard against that.
Yeah, because I didn't even think going back to the R rating made Riddick, which I think he helped finance because he wanted to make it so much. I
would say Pitch Black is a B. Chronicles of Riddick is probably a C.
I would say Pitch Black even veers towards like an A- for me because of the fact that I dig it that much.
Well, so why do you put it all at a C then? You thought Riddick was a D?
I did not like Chronicles of Riddick. I was not a fan of. I was not a fan of that second movie.
I've only seen it once, and it's been too long.
Despite the fact that the costuming looked really.
You'd put
great.
it at a D though, or an F?
No. I would. That film, Chronicles, I'd probably put it at a D.
Okay,
D+,
and then Riddick, you don't
C-.
remember that well?
Not as well. And since I haven't seen the animated film, I would still
I'll go
say
with C with you.
I would say C for this franchise. Because he and that's where I would contend that. He was a very iconic character, his ability and stuff. I thought was really cool. Yeah, and I dig the hell out of that first film. Pitch Black was terrific. I love the creature design, thrilling, very well directed. But there was not another entry in this building mythology in this world of Riddick that I thought was particularly memorable, at least for me. But he's trying to make another one right now, from what I read. He wants to make another one of those, and he wants to make another Last Witch Hunter because he digs that shit. So, yeah.
Last Witch Hunter wasn't terrible.
It wasn't bad.
So next up is so this is a horror comedy franchise, obviously.
Well, just very funny timing because not all of these films are that funny, but very funny timing because I've been on, as I was telling Cecil pre-production, I've been on a parody kick lately. So I've been watching Kentucky Fried Movie and Airplane and Hot Shots and friggin' Pop Star Never Stop, Never
Danger
Stopping.
Man and Kentucky Fried Movie is crazy.
Oh man! So I have also been rewatching the Scary Movie franchise, and the last one, is the only one that I have yet to revisit. But I was just rewatching the fourth one last night. That was spoofing like War of the Worlds, you know, the Spielberg one and stuff. The first film for me is an A. It's not S, you know. It's not up there with like.
No, it's an A.
It's not up there with like Spaceballs or, you know, some of like the Python stuff or like Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks, and, you know, things of that nature. But yeah, it especially for the fact that I was so into Scream and, you know, I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff like that. It was a terrific parody. It was raunchy. I was really into the Wayans brothers and their show at the time too, so that was good. And, you know, Keenan, their older brother, the fact that he had that like experience with making, you know, Don't Be a Menace and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker and stuff like that, like the like awesome savants of parody. But I don't think the series really succeeds as much when the Wayans handed it off to David Zucker and Jim Abrams, and also like defanged and declawed it a little bit and made it into a PG-13 sort of thing. Now granted, they released uncensored, unrated versions and whatever, but Anna Faris is funny throughout. I think she's only in the first four.
I think
this is a C.
I would have gone D.
Okay, well,
it is such a sharp decline. The first one is
a significant decline.
But then I'm talking C and D territory for the rest of it, and honestly, it's not. It gets worse and worse and worse. So
it does, and
I think ultimately we end up at a D, unfortunately.
And also the strange thing about the franchise, having just rewatched it and stuff, is that it veered in these later entries from like horror that was coming out at the time to like spoofing just modern cinema, like the Brokeback Mountain stuff.
Yeah,
and, you know, some of like it almost lost its identity a little bit, and so for that reason, as much as I love that first film, I will concede and say yes, even though I would probably have said a C. I am not going to get bent out of shape by putting the franchise as a whole at a D, because I don't remember the fifth film being very funny at all.
No. Honestly, after one, I thought everything just got worse and worse and worse. So.
I do like the Shaq and Dr. Phil bit at the beginning of the fourth one, though. I think that shit is funny. Anyway.
3 left. So, next up is another one that we just watched this year, which is the Skyline trilogy.
Yeah, because you had seen these.
Well, the third one hadn't come out until this year. So,
but I had not watched the first or the second film, ironically, and I was a little judgmental about this franchise, and I think it was because I think when Skyline came out, it was right around the time Battle Los Angeles came out.
Yeah.
And they looked kind of similar to me, and I wasn't into it, and the fact that it had like Donald Faison, and I forget the name of the other actor, but the fact that it was comedians in this serious alien invasion sort of situation, so I wrote it off. But then with the third film coming out, Skylines, plural, you were the one who urged me to check out the franchise, and I must say, I was impressed, and I really dug the mythology. At least until the third film. The third film is what drags this one down for me, unfortunately.
But how far does it drag down? So I would say that the first movie is an A to a B. I would say the second one is also a B. And then I would say the third one is C territory.
I would go as far as D with the third one.
So do we put the whole thing at a B or a C?
As I look at the stuff in the B territory,
I don't think it's in that category.
No, it's a C.
I think it's a C too.
It's a C for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if there was more Grillo, you know, than just in that one film, the second one.
He'll be in the fourth supposedly, although he's pretty big now.
No.
Right, because he's just been getting bigger and bigger.
And he put out like 3 or 4 movies in like the last year or so. You know, I just watched that Cosmic Sin, the one that he did with Bruce Willis.
Oh, I heard that's horrible.
Boy, it sucked. It was
no, but he did another one that was
really,
pretty
big
bad. Though.
Well, he has the one that's on Hulu currently.
Oh, Boss Level. That was great.
Yes, that's the one that Jason Smith was saying.
I watched that with Donna. That was actually a fun movie.
Yeah, it's been sitting in the cache for a while, but yeah, this is like I still really dig the mythology of this, and man, it was a little gorier at times, even in the PG-13 first installment than I was expecting. Just like what these big robotic aliens sort of like just pulling out like brains and like the reformatting of everything. It's a cool series, but it's not on the level of all the stuff you see at the B territory.
Next up is one I'm gonna have to lean on you a little bit more, Fuego. I have seen all of these, but it's been since they came out on DVD because I was literally at Blockbuster when they came out, and so it's been since
yeah.
the 90s since I've seen them. So
Well, the first one was a made-for-TV sort of situation, and it's not awful, but it definitely kind of took some of the venom out of the short story from Stephen King's Night Shift, because the short story, it deals with, like, conjuring a, like, demon to get rid of other demons sort of situation, which they veered away from doing in this. But it's iconically directed. I forget the name. Tim something, man. The lead actor in this, he's solid, you know, and it's okay. First one is the best of the franchise. Let's put it that way. The other two went direct to video, although ironically enough, the second one has our Burt Gummer.
Michael Gross?
Yeah, Michael Gross, you know, is fresh off of Family Ties at the time.
Sure.
And you also have a young Hilary Swank. And there's there's some goofy, interesting kills in this strange direct-to-video film that I kind of dug. But it's definitely not good, and there is just it's very much the Pet Sematary 2 equivalent of sequels. Now the third one has pretty much nothing to do with the other two, aside from, you know, sometimes they come back for more, I think was what the third one was called, because sometimes they come back again, sometimes they come back for more. And that third entry, man, it was on this, like, military installation in, like, the Antarctic or something like that, and I can't stand that third one. I remember you saying you actually liked it.
I think
more
I remember
so than
the third
second
one being better than the second one, like one of those, like From Dusk Till Dawn had that situation. A few of these franchises have that going on.
Yeah, well, the fact that the original one, I would really hesitate to even go as far as a B. You know, it's more so the adaptation of the source material that would make me give it a B. But the other two are what pushes this to a D for sure.
I was thinking D as well.
Yeah.
And you're the King guy.
Yeah.
That's okay though.
Well, the other
Better
two films.
To be honest.
Well, yeah, the other two films. I mean, okay. Forgot the Face of Their Father, yeah, maybe to a degree, but I still prefer 2 to 3 as far as direct-to-video use of the Stephen King name and prominence and whatnot. But now this is one that I will have to lean a little heavier on you, because I really like the first film. There's only three. There's three of them, right? Oh, there's 4.
There's 4. So I have them, and I do intend to be revisiting them soon. I really like these Wishmaster movies. I enjoy them because, A, the first 2 had Andrew Divoff playing the Djinn, and I think he's awesome in the role. Yeah. And then the third and fourth continue with the conceit of the Djinn movies, which is they want people to make wishes, and then they turn all these people's wishes on their heads into evil things, and I love that setup. Yeah, and 3 is the Vegas one, right? So just like Leprechaun had the 3 for Vegas one, this is the same sort of thing. But I really enjoy these movies. They do decline in quality. I think the first one is great. The second one is still good.
And the first one was the only one in theaters, if I remember correctly. I think the other 3 were.
And it was a Wes Craven Presents, first one was.
Yep, he produced it. But then again, so was Dracula 2000, so
True.
I mean.
Which I enjoed too, to be honest. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
But yeah, no.
I dig the first movie, and I like the conceit, as you said. I mean, we're going as far back as, like, the opening Pandora's box, the monkey's paw sort of situation. About,
I think A is an A tier. Or I think the first one is an A tier.
I would agree with that.
I think then second gets to B, and then I think you're C and D territory for 3 and 4.
So it's
but I think it's closer to C. Honestly, I think it's a B. Well, no, because first one's A, second one is solidly B, third one is C, fourth one is C or D. So I think that pushes it into the B category. Personally,
that's where it's tough, because I don't really remember these later entries. This like 3. I'm definitely pretty sure I saw 3, 4. I
would put it above Jeepers Creepers. I put it above everything at the C, though. I would watch them as much as I watch the B's. Okay. I really enjoy those movies.
Okay, I would put it a step above, because I guess
You're dead set on C, huh?
It would veer more so to a B minus, but boy, revisiting these, I just don't remember the quality of the kills.
So what we may need to do is put this at a B for now, and then I want to actually cover this
proper
year.
Visit,
So and then we can
revisiting of
revisit
the
it in part
franchise,
4 when we record part 4. We can move this down if we need to.
Because I remember sneaking into the theater to see the first film and loving it, you know, because I don't think I was quite 17.
I think it's a
when this
B
came out.
series. I do. But I could be wrong upon the rewatch myself.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So it's either B or C.
Okay, B it is because of the fact that I really, really enjoyed that first film a hell of a lot. And the second one, yeah,
Make
solid.
Your wishes. He's so cool. I can't wait to meet him.
Oh yeah, because he's gonna be at Mad Monster, right?
Yeah, and by the way, I've commissioned Mike Seifert to make a few wishing stones.
Yeah, nice.
So we might actually.
And the Scream reunion stuff that they're doing for Mad Monster is
gonna be dope, too.
pretty exciting as well. Yeah. Heck yeah.
All right, so
Well,
move this over a little bit.
yeah, and just to double down, everybody, art is subjective, and you know, you may think we were way off basis on some of our concedes and, you know, some of the placement here, and that's where we want interaction in the comment section below. You know, make sure to let us know of these 20 new entries where you think they should have been placed, and you know, and if we, you know, how many we got right or how many you think we were like totally off base on. Please, you know, share your sentiments and your thoughts. So.
Indeed. Let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on all of this. I hope you guys enjoyed part 3. We now have 30 franchises. Look, this timeline is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller as we do more and more, or we just start fresh and have like an A sheet and a B sheet, you know what I mean? I think we can probably do one more. Part 4 we can probably do on this one still, and then after
I think the
that,
only section that's safe is S, because I can't think of another horror franchise that I think would get ranked that high.
I think we're gonna have more Fs going forward though as we get to the Children of the Corns and the Puppet Masters and.
Oh, Puppet Master!
Are you gonna put it above? Are you gonna put it at a D just because it has 2 good entries? When there's 12.
There's 3 good entries.
Well,
the first 3 are good. You don't like the Nazi one?
Disagree. No, I hate the Nazi one.
Second one's the best.
I like the second one, and I really liked the reboot that they did. I thought that was
Littlest Reich.
I thought that was fun too.
Oh,
well, we'll get to it all.
Yep, we will.
Guys, again, keep in mind there's over 180 horror franchises. This is just 30 of them. Wait, no. Did we do 20?
We did 20 this time.
Do we normally do 10?
That's where I felt like this.
No, wait. Let's see.
Felt like this
1, 2,
video
3,
was
4,
a little
5,
bit
6,
longer
7,
than...
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3. No, we've done 20 each time.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't recall specifics.
Yeah, we did 10. We did 1 to 20. We did 21 to 40, and now we've done 41 to 60. So next up will be 61 to 80.
Yeah.
So I don't think that one's going to be quite as long away because we've watched most of those series. So we will take a look at that time. But that's going to do it for now, guys.
Looked at that master list. There's still a lot to get to.
A lot to get to. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. I'm looking at the wrong camera.
That's where I was just like,
Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel like you do.
Salute.
We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.